Virginia Giuffre, a name synonymous with courage and resilience, touched the lives of countless people around the world. Her story, though marked by pain and adversity, became a beacon of hope for so many who felt voiceless and unseen. Virginia's unwavering determination to seek justice and truth inspired a movement that continues to echo far beyond her own journey. Sadly, she left this world too soon at the young age of 41, leaving behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. The outpouring of grief and love from friends, family, and supporters was a testament to the profound impact she had on those who knew her, and even those who only knew her story. Her passing on April 25, 2025, sent shockwaves across the globe, leaving a void in the fight for justice for survivors of abuse. News of her death was met with disbelief and sorrow as people everywhere reflected on the courage she displayed in the face of overwhelming odds. Virginia's life was tragically intertwined with the dark world of sexual exploitation, but she refused to be defined by the horrors she endured. Instead, she chose to rise above her circumstances, transforming her pain into a powerful force for change. Her journey was not just about survival, but about reclaiming her voice and her identity. With remarkable bravery, she stepped forward, using her voice to expose the powerful individuals she accused of perpetrating these heinous acts. Virginia's willingness to speak out even when faced with threats and intimidation inspired others to come forward and share their own stories. Virginia's story is a stark reminder of the hidden suffering endured by countless individuals, often silenced by fear and intimidation. Her advocacy shone a light on the realities faced by survivors everywhere, breaking the silence that had kept so many in the shadows for far too long. Her unwavering pursuit of justice, despite facing immense personal challenges, made her an icon for survivors worldwide. She became a symbol of hope, showing that it is possible to fight back, to demand accountability, and to seek healing, even when the odds seem insurmountable. She gave a voice to the voiceless, reminding us that even in the face of unimaginable adversity, hope and resilience can prevail. Virginia's compassion and empathy for others created a ripple effect, encouraging communities to come together in support of survivors and to challenge the systems that enable abuse. While we mourn the loss of this extraordinary woman, we must also celebrate her extraordinary life and the profound impact she had on the world. Her laughter, her kindness, and her unwavering spirit touched everyone she met, leaving behind memories that will be cherished forever. Virginia's legacy extends far beyond the courtroom. Her fight for justice was not just about legal victories, but about changing hearts and minds and inspiring a new generation to stand up for what is right. She will be remembered as a loving mother, a dedicated advocate, and a symbol of unwavering strength in the face of unimaginable adversity. Her love for her family and her commitment to making the world a safer place for future generations will never be forgotten. As we honor Virginia Giuffre's memory, let us be inspired by her courage and her compassion. Her legacy will continue to inspire others to speak out against injustice and fight for a world where survivors are heard, believed, and supported. May her story remind us all that even in the darkest of times, one person's bravery can spark a movement and change the world for the better. Virginia's journey to becoming a powerful advocate for survivors did not begin in a place of strength, but rather in the shadows of hardship and vulnerability that defined her early years. Her story is not just one of survival, but of a young girl forced to navigate a world that often seemed indifferent to her pain. Born in Sacramento, California, Virginia entered a world where stability was fleeting and affection was scarce. Her childhood was marked by a constant sense of uncertainty, moving from place to place, never quite knowing what the next day would bring. The neglect she experienced at home left her feeling invisible, desperate for someone to notice her, to care for her, to offer the love and security every child deserves. This deep longing for connection and acceptance, so common among children in difficult circumstances, unfortunately made her an easy target for those with darker intentions. The vulnerability that came from her fractured family life left her exposed to the dangers that lurk in the shadows, waiting for someone to exploit her need for affection. At just 7 years old, Virginia suffered a trauma that would haunt her for years to come. She was sexually abused by a family friend, someone she should have been able to trust. This devastating betrayal shattered her sense of safety and left her with emotional wounds that would take a lifetime to heal. The pain and confusion of that experience became a silent burden she carried through her formative years. The early exposure to such cruelty and betrayal shaped Virginia's understanding of the world. It taught her that those who seemed trustworthy could be dangerous and that innocence could be a liability. These lessons, learned far too young, made her even more vulnerable to predators, adults who could sense her need for guidance and belonging. As she entered her teenage years, Virginia sought out places that promised stability and a sense of purpose. She found work at Mar-a-Lago, a world away from her modest beginnings. The luxury and order of the resort offered a stark contrast to the chaos of her home life, and for a time it seemed like a safe haven, a place where she could reinvent herself and perhaps find the acceptance she craved. But beneath the surface of opulence and privilege, danger still lurked. It was at Mar-a-Lago that Virginia met Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman whose charm and sophistication masked far more sinister intentions. Maxwell presented herself as a mentor, someone who could open doors and offer guidance to a young woman searching for direction. With her connections to the world's elite and an air of authority, Maxwell quickly gained Virginia's trust. She seemed to offer the very things Virginia had always wanted: attention, validation, and a sense of belonging. But this relationship was built on deception, and the trust Virginia placed in Maxwell would soon be weaponized against her. Little did Virginia know that this seemingly chance encounter would mark the beginning of a harrowing new chapter, one that would draw her into a world of unimaginable darkness, manipulation, and abuse. The vulnerability that had defined her childhood would now be exploited in ways she could never have foreseen, setting her on a path that would ultimately test her strength, resilience, and will to survive. Under the guise of mentorship and opportunity, Ghislaine Maxwell introduced Virginia to Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy financier with a sinister secret. Epstein, with Maxwell as his alleged accomplice, ran a sophisticated operation that preyed on vulnerable young women, luring them into a web of sexual exploitation and abuse. Virginia, still a teenager seeking stability and a sense of belonging, found herself trapped in this horrifying world. Epstein, with his wealth and connections, exerted control over his victims, isolating them from their support systems and subjecting them to unimaginable abuse. For years, Virginia endured unspeakable horrors, her voice silenced by fear and manipulation. Epstein and Maxwell, she would later allege, used their power and influence to silence their victims and evade accountability. The trauma of this period would leave an indelible mark on Virginia's life, shaping her journey and fueling her determination to seek justice. However, even in the darkest of times, Virginia's spirit remained unbroken. She refused to be defined by the abuse she endured, clinging to the hope of one day reclaiming her life and exposing the truth about her abusers. In 2009, after years of silence and carrying the weight of unimaginable trauma, Virginia Giuffre found the strength to break free from the clutches of her abusers. For so long, her voice had been stifled by fear, shame, and the overwhelming power wielded by those who had hurt her. But something inside her shifted, and she realized that telling her story was not only an act of personal liberation, but a necessary step toward justice. She bravely stepped forward, joining a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein, accusing him of sex trafficking and sexual assault. This was not a decision made lightly. Virginia knew the risks, the scrutiny, and the backlash she would face. Yet she pressed on, determined to hold her abusers accountable, no matter how powerful or untouchable they seemed. This courageous act marked a turning point in Virginia's life, as she refused to be silenced any longer. By stepping into the public eye, she became a beacon of hope for countless other survivors who had suffered in silence, showing them that it was possible to confront even the most daunting adversaries. Her accusations sent shockwaves through the world, exposing the dark underbelly of power and privilege. The media frenzy that followed brought unprecedented attention to the case, forcing society to reckon with the uncomfortable truth that abuse can thrive in the shadows of wealth and influence. Virginia detailed a horrifying system of abuse, alleging that Epstein and Maxwell trafficked her to powerful individuals, including Prince Andrew, Duke of York. Her testimony painted a chilling picture of manipulation, coercion, and exploitation, implicating some of the world's most prominent figures in a web of criminality. Her allegations against Prince Andrew, which he vehemently denied, sparked international controversy and shed light on the global reach of Epstein's alleged crimes. The scandal dominated headlines, prompting investigations, public outcry, and renewed calls for accountability at the highest levels of society. Virginia's decision to name her abusers, regardless of their status or influence, demonstrated her unwavering commitment to seeking justice. She stood firm, even as powerful forces tried to silence her, understanding that her actions could inspire others to come forward and demand change. Her fight for accountability was fraught with challenges, facing legal hurdles, personal attacks, and relentless attempts to discredit her story. The legal process was grueling, and the public scrutiny often felt unbearable, but Virginia refused to let these obstacles deter her from her mission. However, Virginia refused to be intimidated, her determination fueled by a deep sense of justice and a desire to protect others from suffering the same fate. Through her courage and resilience, she became a symbol of hope and empowerment, reminding the world that even in the face of overwhelming odds, one person's voice can spark a movement for truth and justice. Virginia Giuffre's courageous decision to speak out had a ripple effect, inspiring countless others to share their own stories of survival. She became a leading voice in the MeToo movement, a global phenomenon that empowered survivors of sexual harassment and assault to come forward and demand accountability. Virginia's unwavering pursuit of justice, despite facing intense scrutiny and personal attacks, resonated with survivors worldwide. She provided a powerful example of resilience and strength, demonstrating that it is possible to reclaim your voice and fight for your right to heal. Through her activism and public speaking engagements, Virginia dedicated her life to supporting fellow survivors. She founded the nonprofit organization Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, or SOAR, providing a platform for survivors to connect, heal, and advocate for systemic change. Virginia's advocacy extended beyond her own experiences as she tirelessly campaigned for stronger laws to protect children from sexual exploitation and hold perpetrators accountable. Her unwavering commitment to creating a safer world for future generations cemented her legacy as a true champion for justice.